What is up? It's your boy Young Test. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out my channel playlist for individual tutorials on logic, sculpting, animation, music, and more. And feel free to look up my game Linger and my artwork by typing in Young Text YouTube in the Dreamverse. My game Linger is awesome. You guys are awesome also. This is my game Polybius. And Polybius I had to make open and closing doors. So here we are. Go ahead and show you guys what it looks like, guys. Holy crap. This door doesn't open like that. This door does, so I press the square button. So as you can see, it actually works perfectly. The only thing is you have to make it to where the door no longer moves afterwards. I didn't do that with my doors yet. You also have to make it to where the door doesn't collide with the character while it's moving. Otherwise, it'll push your character back. So we'll talk about all that. As you can see, this one still moves, and you want to make it to where after the keyframe is done, it doesn't move anymore. This door requires a key. We'll talk about that also near the end of the video. We won't get to that in the beginning, so we'll also talk about keys in this tutorial if you're wanting to know about that. So let's see here. Let me try to navigate myself. So here's a trap blood room. Key. You got a key. In order to make the key, you have to make it to where it touches the character. At least with my tutorial. The blood raises up if you get in the center. Pretty scary. So now that we got our key, we can try to open up that door. So I'm not sure if you guys can hear the laugh, but there is a laugh in the background. So that's what happens when you open the door. Turns out the door does absolutely nothing. Because you could just do this. And the reason behind that is because the game's going to be messing with you. So you think you picked up a key that actually does something? No, you have to navigate your way through it. You have to navigate your way through it. And because you have the key, you'll think you can, like, open stuff. When really, you have to navigate your way through it. It's like a puzzle within a puzzle. Your mind is the puzzle. So let's go ahead and get on to how we actually do this. Now that you guys seen it in real time. So in order to make a door that opens, let me go ahead and make it to where you guys can see everything. What you want to do is have a trigger, a keyframe that opens the door. This is what has the door open. Just make it to where it swings open. And then pretty much the trigger, the power source for the trigger is a control sensor square button. A control sensor square button. And pretty much make it to where your character has to be in the trigger zone in order for it to open. With labels or a tag within your puppet microchip. And then pretty much whenever you press square and you're in that trigger zone, it'll open. And that's pretty much it for it. What you have to also do with the keyframe is make it to where the door is no longer movable. You might have to press O1 and square a few times in order to do that, or you might just have to press it once so the door doesn't swing shut and open anymore to where you get bad looking gameplay. What you want to essentially do while it's opening is make sure the labels change from object to something that the character, your player, doesn't collide with. That way it doesn't get knocked all the way back. You can also change labels with the keyframe. So it's pretty simple. You can also make it to where the door doesn't collide with the player. So with the keyframe, make it to where it no longer collides with the player. And make sure if the player is colliding with the door that he no longer, or she, no longer collides with the door. Otherwise, the door will still be colliding with the player, or the player will still be colliding with the door. So make sure there's no collisions happening. And you can do that with the labels and the collisions. Make sure your control center is on remote control. And right now I'm trying to find my character. Okay. Make sure your control center is on remote control. If you're using a second separate control sensor, make sure it's on remote control. If you're using your puppet control sensor, I'm sure you can do that also. So press L1 and square on your puppet. And then you should be able to change the labels. If you can't change it yet, press L1 and square again to where it opens this up. Change the collisions and the labels for the keyframe with the keyframe. Don't just change it. Assign the labels to where the labels are, you know, just what they are when they are. But whenever the keyframe works, make it to where you're either using an action recorder or use a keyframe. You can use an action recorder because then the action recorder can turn it on and then off and then turn it back on if you want to do it that way. That way you don't have to like do it 1,000 times for each door. But for each door you're gonna have to put separate trigger zones and separate keyframes. Make sure the keyframe is on keep changes. And you should see that within your keyframe options. So my friend, my label is named friend. The door knows to collide with friend. Let's go ahead and show you more about that because it can be a little bit tricky. The door has no labeled, so it's instantly assigned as unlabeled. So if we were going to the collisions, this is assigned as unlabeled because of that. The door knows what to collide with. Collides with friend. So whenever you press square and you're in the trigger zone, it turns that off. Then you turn, or you can turn off. Well, don't turn off your label. And then you know. If the player collides with something within the door's label, unlabeled, then turn that off also. Or you can just, if the door has it to where you can change off the collision settings, that's a hitbox by the way, just turn that off also. That'll make it a lot easier if the door is just a puppet, but it'll be hard to make a door a puppet, if that makes sense, because then it's a character. Or if you can find a way to do it over here. So essentially that's how you do all that. Now how do you make keys? Keys is pretty easy, just make variables with a calculator and an impact sensor and a destroyer. The hard part is figuring out where the dang key is. In my game, not your game. In my game, it's hard to find. Well, not really. It's not hard to find in the game, but it's hard to find whenever you're freaking trying to find it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just press play. Because that seems to be the only way I'm able to find this. There's no keyframe connected to it, that's why it doesn't open. See what I'm saying? There we go. And here's the door with the key. Let's go ahead and exit out all this. So here's how you program a key. Impact sensor, destroyer, calculator, and so on. So let's talk about the calculator and the keyframe first. So whenever the impact sensor senses an impact for the key with the player, and the labels the player, impact sensor side connected to the key, it sends off a detection to the keyframe. What this keyframe does is pretty much raises this, because a keyframe can raise numbers to 1. If it's equal to 1, then this plays, and then this timer also plays. The timer then, whenever it's finished, timer finish signal. Don't do pulse. You can try pulse though, but don't do it. These is keep change if you were wondering what that was. Whenever this is finished, this turns on, and whenever this turns on, this affects the same calculator and puts it to 0.02, so that way this no longer displays. You can also turn down the opacity with the keyframe. Impact sensor, whenever it senses the impact, it should destroy the key to where the key is no longer there, no longer visible, it's out of sight. I think that's how I did it. And then what it does whenever it's destroyed, it powers on object it destroys, it powers on the variable that pretty much makes the door open whenever the character's in the trigger zone, setting that to 1 or whatever value it needs to be to open up the door. The impact sensor is what's powering on the destroyer. So whenever the player is touching the key, powers on the destroyer, it destroys. So that's everything in here. I'm so sorry, I have a cold. That's everything in here. And that's how you program keys. You just have to make sure the key is in a place to where it can touch the character. So if it needs to be higher, you know, make it higher, all that great stuff. You can, you know, mess with it to make it more polished to your game if you need to, but that's pretty much, it's pretty much going to work the same way every time for the most part. So how do you program the door? Here's the door. This is the door that opens whenever voice or open door is equal to 1. So essentially you won't need everything that I have here. You'll just need the variable connected to the A of the calculator, equal sign 1 excuse me, equal sign 1, and a trigger zone. And whenever the character's in the trigger zone, you could program it the same way as all the other doors open, and then make a sound effect to where the key open, you can hear the key open the door. And or you could just make it to where the door opens with a keyframe, the same way you did all the other doors. Without the remote control, it just opens instantly whenever the player's there. Just make sure after it opens, it's no longer movable. How to make locked doors, just make it to where the door isn't movable at all. Right when the game starts. And that should pretty much be it. You shouldn't need that calculator. That should pretty much be it. So this is the variable that the key changed. This is just some timeline stuff to make a laugh happen. And also emit the other object out there that's scary. This is the keyframe that opens this door. I'm not exactly sure where the keyframe is that opens this door, but you know. It's probably right here. So this is how you make open and close doors in Dreams PS4, guys. This is how you can do it. Just make sure whenever it opens, it doesn't knock back the player. If you can figure out a way to do that like I just showed you in a different way, let us know in the comment section below. Thanks guys so much. Peace out. Sorry for the cold. Again, you can use 2 separate remote controls. You can either use the one in your puppet, or you can just use the second one. Just make sure it's on remote control. And that's pretty much it, guys. So trigger zones, variables, keyframes, and calculators, destroyer, impact sensor, variable modifier to modify the key variable or the voice variable for me. So alright guys, peace out, have a wonderful day. Don't forget to subscribe, check out my channel playlist for individual tutorials on logic, sculpting, animation, music, more benefits that I'll stream at the top. Feel free to come into the stream if you have something you want me to test, play, hear, see, or watch your animations. Peace.